Welcome, welcome to another exciting episode of Carving the Divine TV. My name is Yujiro Seki. I'm a director, writer, and the producer of the documentary Carving the Divine. Carving the Divine is about Buddhist sculptors of Japan, and I'm ready to present it for the first time in the world. But before I do so, I thought it would be a great idea to introduce basic concept of Buddhism and the history of Buddhism, so that when you guys finally watch my documentary, you guys can watch it at the maximum value. Today, finally, my dream come true. We're gonna be actually talking about the statues, Buddhist sculptures of Japan. No, sculptures of Japan. We've been talking about the concept of Buddhism and the history of Buddhism, but actually we really wanted to talk about the statues. But in order to talk about the statues, it was important for us to actually learn about a little bit of basic concept of Buddhism. So finally, I'm very excited to have you, Mr. Mark Schumacher, art historian that everybody respect. It's my dream come true. Please introduce yourself.
Well, thank you for having me. I've been living in Japan for nearly 25 years in a great center of Buddhist statuary called Kamakura. That's where my love of the statuary originated, walking around seeing these very interesting statues and not knowing anything about them. So the last 25 years, I've basically been learning myself how to identify the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and all the other kind of divinities and creatures of Buddhism. And along the way, I made a website. I started this website 25 years ago called the A to Z Photo Dictionary of Japanese Buddhist Statuary. And it's basically been like a 25-year blog. It now has something like maybe 10,000 pages and 30,000 photographs. So if your viewers are interested in learning about individual deities like Shaka Buddha, the historical Buddha, or Dainichi Buddha, the Sun Buddha, or Goddess of Mercy, or Jizo Bosatsu, or whatever, please go to view my site. The link is on markproductions.com. And when you get there, just click the Buddha image to get started. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that. So yes, I'm very impressed with what you accumulated. So it's in human-like. It is impossible for any single person to combine these pictures and description. So yeah, I encourage you guys to visit his website. But basically, today we want to ask this fundamental question. As you said, you didn't know any meanings behind any of those deities, and I'm sure viewers they don't know anything about them either. So when we talk about the Japanese Buddhist statuary, we have to start talking about the Butsuzō. It's a Japanese word for Japanese statuary, but it's more than just the Buddha sitting down, as many people might assume. So for you, what is Butsuzō? So tell us about the Butsuzō today.
Okay. Well, Butsuzō is the Japanese pronunciation of a Chinese word. And the Chinese word is literally translated as Buddha image or Buddha statue. And in the beginning, this term, Butsuzō, specifically referred to a statue of Shaka Buddha, who is the founder of Buddhism. He founded Buddhism in India about 500 BC. And so originally Butsuzō actually did mean statues of the historical Buddha. But the way we use the word now, Butsuzō, today, it includes not only the Buddhas, there are many Buddhas, not just Shaka. It includes the Bodhisattvas, it includes heavenly celestial beings, it includes wrathful protectors, it includes creatures and demons dragons and snakes. It includes revered monks. It includes revered artists themselves. So the word Butsuzō encompasses the entire Buddhist cosmology, the deities, the personalities, the creatures, and Butsuzō then is like the generic word for, we should better translate Butsuzō as images of the Buddhist deities and Buddhist cosmos would be the best way to translate it.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So, so that includes like Shinto deities as well, or they don't include?
No, I would say no, because the Butsu literally means Buddha or Buddhism. So what will we call? I don't know if there's a special word for Japanese kami. Now, you might know more than I do about this. Do the Bushi, your video, Carving the Divine, is all about the Bushi, the sculptors.
Mm-hmm.
Did that workshop that you made your film about, did they make kami statues too from the Shinto tradition?
Yes, I think they do. They do. And many times, since it's their occupation to make statues, many times they don't really care what they make. So I think if they were asked to make characters from Hollywood movies or something, they probably do that. But
okay, so I would then say that the Butsuzō then would, yes, let's say it does include the Shinto kami. Now, that makes sense too, because in the old days, for almost all of Japan's history, recorded history, the Buddhist philosophies and the Japanese kami, the word for deity in Japan is kami, a local deity. The two were together. For each Buddhist deity, you had a counterpart kami.
Mm-hmm.
Honji Suijaku, they called this. The Buddhist deity was the true manifestation, and the Japanese local god was a trace, a manifestation of the Buddha. The Buddha was so bright that people couldn't see, so the Buddha had to reduce or dim his light to appear to the people. And the kami, the Japanese kami, are the Buddha dimming their lights to help people in this world. So I would say then that Butsuzō will include Shinto kami.
Yes. Many times I do agree that Japanese people don't have that much, they don't differentiate so much about what is Buddha and what is kami as far as statue making goes. If they ask a question, we ask a question to them very carefully. They would say, "Oh, this is kami, but this is a Buddha." But at the same time, they don't consciously think about, "Oh, he is a Buddha and he is a kami," and
right.
Something like that. So that
so most of the time, though, the Buddhist deities always had Shinto kami counterparts, and the two developed together, Buddhism and kami worship.
Mm-hmm.
So there were temples inside of shrines, and shrines inside of temples. Mm-hmm. Although in the art world, in the Butsuzō world, Buddhism had the greatest impact on art. There are lots and lots and lots of statues of the Buddhist deities. There are not a lot of statues of the Japanese kami.
Agree, yes.
So if you really are interested in a statuary, if you visit Japan, you would go to a temple, not a shrine. The temple will have statuary, and the shrine will not have much of any statuary.
Beautiful. No, that's great. We had a really great discussion. I think Butsuzō the meaning is so complex, so we cannot just define it in one single sentence. So I would assume.
So I would then try a new definition. Butsuzō means images and icons and even pictures and paintings of the Buddhist landscape and its deities, including the Japanese local kami.
Great. No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So great. So thank you very much again. So make sure that everybody visit Mr. Schumacher's website. So please tell us about your website again really quick.
Essentially, it's A to Z. You can go there, and then if you already know the name of the god or the deity that you want to learn about, you find their name and click the name. There are also pages that define important topics, like the mandala. If you are interested in the mandala, you could go to a mandala guide. If you're interested in learning about the categories of the deities from the Buddha, which is at the very top of spiritual consciousness, or the Bodhisattva, which are the compassionate ones who stay in this world to help us, or about the Diva, or about the wrathful Myo-o, which is our like kings of light. They have a fiery halo, and they hold weapons because they're trying to frighten people into being good. If you want to learn about the different categories of the gods, then you can also find lots of things involving Japanese religion, especially medieval religion. My site focuses generally on the 9th century to the 14th century. So we call that medieval. And I think it actually, to me, some of the world's most divine statuary is from the 9th to 14th century in Japan.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I would like to ask you a final question. The question is, so why you're so fascinated with the Buddhism? Because there are many Buddhist statues around the world, and you focus on. You're fascinated by fascinated with the particularly Japanese Buddhist statues. So please tell us.
Well, I've been to most of Asia, and Cambodia, and China, and Korea, and Vietnam, and Tibet. And there's a warmth and a delicacy and a sensitivity and a simplicity to Japanese statuary that I don't find elsewhere. Also, the Japanese statuary that I've seen is unpainted. It's natural wood. I particularly like many of the great treasures of Japan were in fact painted. The wood was painted, but most of that paint is now deteriorated, worn off, and all you're seeing now is the underlying natural grains of the wood. The biggest reason I fell in love with Japanese statuary, however, was a visit to Kyoto, and I went to a temple near the station called Sanju-san Gendo. And the statues inside of the Sanju-san Gendo were made by Unkei and Tankei, two of Japan's greatest bushi sculptures, makers of statues. And inside this hall, the statues are like the 12th century, early, like 1180 or 1200 Common Era. And there are 1,000 statues, life-size statues of the goddess of mercy with 10-armed Kannon, 11-headed Kannon, and then around the backside, I fell in love. They had these 28 guardian deities, deities with bird heads and deities with female faces, 3-headed monsters. And I just said, wow, this is better than going to a Hollywood movie. And these were all life-size. And that I just fell in love at that point in time. And I said, well, what do they represent? Who are these people? Or who are these deities? So I would ask the Japanese, I would ask my wife, I would ask my friends, nobody could tell me what was happening. Well, so that's how I just started. It was a hobby. And so I just walked around the cities and visited temples, taking pictures, and then teaching myself about the deities.
Beautiful.
So it's a labor of love, basically.
Yeah, 25 years of building your website. So if you don't love it, who can do that, right? Great. So thank you very much. So if you guys think this information is useful, make sure to subscribe my YouTube channel, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and like me on my Facebook, because that's how we do it in the 21st century. So thank you so much, Mr. Schumacher. So I'll see you next time.
My pleasure.